Today, my guest is Olya Grovel. She had huge experience working in Philip Morris as a brand manager, then Oracle as a marketing manager, then PayPal, Clutch, and these are all like huge brands. And I believe that we have a lot of learn from her.
Usually there are two categories of founders I work with. One is, like you said exactly, either growth is slowing down or everything is like super chaotic and they don't know what to do, or everything is just fine and they're wondering, if they could do better than what they're doing today.
What's not the first, but the biggest mistake you see founders are doing when they have to scale?
Everybody believes that they have problem with the acquisition, as in we need more leads. But in reality, their problem is sitting mid-funnel.
And here we are. Welcome to a new episode of Leaders of Growth podcast. I'm Milan Savov, CEO of SmartLeak, where we help actually B2B SaaS companies to get to the top of AI search and Google and turn visibility into high quality organic leads. And these days we solve two big issues, which is not showing up in AI searches and dealing with the traffic drop. So if something of that directly impacts to you, you can find some resources below this video. Today, my guest is Olya Grovel. And what is interesting is that I was her guest on her podcast and she interviewed me, and now it's my turn to do the same. So I hope we'll have great conversation. What I also learned about her is that she had huge experience working in Philip Morris as a brand manager, then Oracle as a marketing manager, then PayPal, Clutch, and these are all like huge brands. And I believe that we have a lot of learn from her. So she's also an angel investor and a mentor, and right now a CEO of SLS Labs. So this is what I know, but Olya, welcome and feel free to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Milan. I think that was already a very nice intro, and I'm very grateful to be on your podcast. It's always like a full circle moment for me when I do something else with a guest, for example, like come to their podcast, or maybe we do something else. So thank you for having me here. And I guess I'll use the new positioning that I've recently figured out. It was actually a couple of my clients who said it to me. They're like, "Oh, you're like a SWAT team for scaling," meaning, special weapons and tactics. They said basically, we feel like you came into the room and everybody froze, and you were able to see exactly what the problem was and how to fix it. And they gave me this analogy, and I was like, this is perfect. I didn't even, have to think about it myself.
From your clients, it's even the strongest positioning.
Exactly. Although I am a bit cautious about any sort of like army or police analysis for an obvious reason, but I felt like it was very interesting, and it like gets the point across very quickly. I don't have to like spend 5 minutes explaining what I do. But yes, my original experience is in, I call it corporate America, big Fortune 100 and 500 companies. Then I had this great experience with PayPal, which actually propelled me into startups and scale-ups. And I had several in-house roles. And then I finally decided to go out on my own. I had my own SaaS founder journey, which I think was like a gestalt, if we use a German word, that basically like I wanted to close. But eventually I realized it wasn't exactly what I want to do. So today I'm helping scaling companies do better with what they have. And it's been a fun ride.
Yeah. Let's dive a bit into this. But before that, can you just share like a couple of moments from maybe PayPal or Clutch? What was like the biggest things which shaped you actually as the person who you are today?
It was actually, I think, right before PayPal, when I was working at Callan, which is a big association management company. And I had a great mentor. He was the greatest mentor I've ever had on my journey. I'm always very vocal about him. His name is Greg, and he was the person who actually took me from the previous company, the Levick Christ Communications, and brought me and gave me a chance. He gave me a director title, even though I wasn't even close to being on that position in the previous company. But he saw something in me. He saw something bigger than what I saw, and it really helped shape, as I guess, a special trajectory in my own head. And he also taught me this one principle that I use up to today, really, and I try to teach it to others. Basically, pick your battles as in there are always a lot of things that can be fought, a lot of things that could be fixed. And if you try to approach them all at the same time, and he was using the analogy from the book, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, like you cannot fight all the enemies at the same time. You have to pick the order in which it would be the most effective. And that's actually the principle that I use in my methodology today. Literally what we do is the right sequencing of scaling experiments, as in there are always a lot of different ideas, a lot of things to be fixed in a scaling company, and all that matters is doing it in the right order and understanding the second and first and second order effects. And like I said, this goes back to, oh my God, 2016. So it's been 10 years, but that person and the lessons that he taught me have really made me who I am today.
Yeah, that's great. The thing which you mentioned, pick your battles and do it in the right order. And what I really admire in a great mentors is that they can recognize who can you become instead of who you are today. So because I had the same experience with my mentor who actually believed in me before I did myself.
Right.
But this is really great that you have a person who actually do that for you. So usually founders come to you when growth slows down, and even though product and demand are strong. So what are the real reasons like behind this? What happens at that moment?
I'll give you two different categories. So there are two categories of founders I work with. One is, like you said, exactly, either growth is slowing down or everything is like super chaotic and they don't know what to do, or everything is just fine and they're wondering, if they could do better than what they're doing today. And I worked out this very maybe unique or unconventional approach. I always lead with one question when I start working with a founder, and you might laugh at it, but I usually say, okay, tell me who you are and why you're doing what you're doing, which usually throws people off and they're like, oh, but I'm building this product. I was like, no, I don't care about the product. Tell me who you are, what drives you as a person, and why you're doing what you're doing. No matter whether it's physical product, digital product, etc. Once you drill down to that, you start understanding their incentives, how they think of the person, etc. And then you see how it applies in the organization. Because there is a saying that a dog can resemble their master. The same way, company will always resemble the founder. So if the founder behaves in a chaotic way themselves, you're gonna see it across the company, because it's literally they affect the company so much that this is usually the first thing that I would check. I would just have a really, down to earth conversation with the founder about, their personal aspirations, which in the second order would affect the company. And then the other two things that I would do right away, I call them reality checks. First, if the previous data that they have explains the goals that they have for 6 or 12 months, there is always a mismatch, because founders tend to be super optimistic about what's going to happen. And that unfortunately affects team morale.
Behind.
Exactly, and everything across the board. And then the second thing is another so-called reality check number 2, as in the conversion rates that you're having today. Are they actually, how are they comparing to the market averages? Because once again, it could be the problem could just really be in the volume, as in their conversion rate are really good, but they don't have enough volume of things. So these are the two things that I usually start with, and then all goes back to them already having a data room or source of truth that I can check. If I don't, then it's like an additional step of creating the reporting and the data room for them, which is usually a painful process, because then it concerns quite a few people. But for me, it's foundation. Like if you don't have common understanding about your numbers within the company, that's a big problem, and that will usually, not end well in the long term.
Yeah, regarding the first part, you mentioned that it's really important for you to understand who they are and why they actually started that product. Why exactly is that important for you, and how actually people know to answer that questions when you ask that?
Because that reveals the real intentions behind the numbers that they're setting for the company. So say if it's a venture-backed company, if they don't want to reveal whether or not they want to make an exit or they want to just have sustainable growth, then there's going to be a mismatch with the numbers. Because sometimes I see like super high numbers, almost like unicorn, the double triple type of thing, and I'm like, okay, is that what you really want to do? Like, do you want to flip the company at that point, or do you want to continue having it? And then if they don't tell me the truth, it's very hard to work with the goals. Because if you don't understand what you want to do long term, short term, it's like if you cannot see the destination, it's hard to make the steps. So it's a bit of a, and most of the founders get a very defensive reaction first, but then once I explain to them why I need to get down to the truth, they understand it, and then it's usually like a lot of friction is removed. So it's basically the trajectory of the growth of the company will be shaped by the final intention of the founder. And if they're not truthful about it, in my experience, it's just it won't really line up. There are some people who just want to prove to themselves that they can run a successful business, and that's again a very different trajectory from somebody who just wants to make a huge exit.
Yeah, exactly. With the clear vision, I think the path is like opening for yourself, but you need to know where you want to go. And
exactly.
As you mentioned, when you find their internal driver, you also can calibrate, is that what I actually want inside them, so they can commit to the strategy which they will define, and again align the goals, not just put some random numbers which are not achievable, or there is no like mismatch from the market, from the total addressable market, and so on.
Exactly. So they gotta believe in it for the rest of the team to believe in it too. And the teams are not stupid, they can smell when the founder just like throws numbers at the wall and hopes everybody's gonna follow it.
Exactly. And you often say that the problem is not actually in sales and marketing, but it's mostly like operational. So what does like a broken operational model looks like for when you enter like in any SaaS business? How do you detect that?
Oh, the first red flag is the absence of common reporting. It's like, for example, there is one team that has the reporting, the other one doesn't, and they do not have a common source of truth. As in, for example, CRM is missing some metrics, and they have to always dig it up from somewhere else. So there is no, kind of like live source where everybody checks upon what's going on. That's usually a big red flag. Sometimes it's really, it's never ill intended, right? Nobody wakes up and says, oh, we're not going to do the reporting. Usually teams see it as like technical debt, something that they need to work on. But with a certain level of revenue, it becomes indispensable. As in, if you don't understand your numbers today, it's hard for you to do the forecast. It's hard for you to understand where you're really going to be 3 months from now. And whether you're bootstrapped or VC backed, you still have runway. So if you miscalculate your runway, well, we all know how it ends, right? People have to do layoffs, etc. So all the like really, or even close doors of the company.
Would you like just to clarify what exactly do you mean with common reporting system?
Oh, basically, say there is a dashboard that everybody shares where they can see all of the commercial metrics and everything that supports it. So I'm talking about visibility over the whole funnel, whether they're PLG or sales led.
And
They
this
need
is a
to understand
dashboard.
what's happening.
Who should have access to this dashboard actually?
I would say all of the team leads.
All
of the team leads, yeah. So if the company is already pretty robust and they're like beyond just the founding team, as in they already have several C-suite executives, and especially if they have mid-level managers under it, everybody should have access to the same documents. Any sort of silos or just this, I don't know, leadership team has access to this as nobody else. This is a bad sign. That means that there is lack of transparency. There is, this secondary narrative that is going around. And again, that causes misalignment. This causes just longer timelines on everything and lack of trust that will eventually erode everything that's happening in the company. And this lack of trust also translates into how, if there are salespeople, and how they communicate with the prospects.
Yeah, and when this dashboard is like accessible to all of the leads in the team, like all of the departments, I suppose they have better alignment inside them, so they actually know how much leads they need, how much they should close to actually get the revenue, and again have clarity of that goals.
Exactly. That way, everybody's moving in the same direction and
Yeah,
not pointing fingers, you know?
yeah,
This has really happened to me even when I was in house, and that's why I kind of hated being in house afterwards. It's like there is one team, usually the commercial team, that would have the reporting, and then say the product team would have absolutely nothing. And we in the commercial, especially when I was running the sales team, would be like, okay, but so what's happening with the free trials? Like, are people actually engaging? Because it would have like zero visibility on it. They'll be like,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, we'll get to it. And I'm like, guys, you're not even supporting us. You're putting sticks into our wheels. We don't know if they're actually using the free trial. We don't know who we need to nudge, who we need to talk to, etc. It's not even. It's like the direct consequence
yeah,
of
yeah,
the absence of this, even like a tracking system. Okay, maybe there is no fancy reporting, but there is a way to, look into what's happening with the users or prospects.
yeah, yeah. And when it comes to the CEO level, do you think the CEO should like track all of these department numbers, or maybe there are most high level things which he or she needs to track?
I think it depends on their go-to-market motion. If it's heavily relying on founder-led sales and social
Mhm,
selling overall, then I think they should have more visibility into like mid-level metrics too,
mhm, mhm,
because that's how they produce the content afterwards, because they can
mhm.
really understand what's happening with the product, with the users, etc. If they're a little bit more removed and they don't participate in social selling, etc., then they just need the visibility on the health of each department. Like,
Yeah,
is the department hitting the goals, and if not, why?
yeah, great. So I think this is like great point to have a CRM visible to all the team leaders to track all the metrics and they're synced for the goal. Uh,
Exactly.
my next question is let's try to unpack like what's not the first but the biggest mistake you see founders are doing when they have to scale. Is there any like example which is repetitive, which you see most?
Yeah, I would say one thing that surfaces very, very often is that everybody believes that they have problem with the acquisition, as in we need more leads. But in reality, their problem is sitting mid-funnel. They're failing to activate people, but they're somehow like disregarding it and saying, "Oh, no, 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 we just need more leads. That way,
Mm.
their people will be converting more." And I'm like, "No, we just need to convert people better. That way, you don't have to spend more money on acquiring more leads. You'll just get more from your current pipeline."
Yeah, yeah.
So that's definitely a thing that I see across the board. And then secondary would be the absence of let's call it detailed segmentation of the ICPs. So they're usually able to articulate in like big lines who they're selling to and why those people are buying. But we all know that there are always like multiple sub ICPs.
Mm.
As
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
say, if you're selling to, all right, let me give you the most recent example. For example, there is a product analytics company selling to Series A to B companies, and
Mhm.
it's gonna amplify their existing product analytics by telling them precisely the behavior of people who are
Yeah.
about to churn. So this is for net recurring revenue, and they thought that the person that is buying their product is the customer success department. And
Mhm.
through the conversation with me, they have realized that it's actually this is just one sub ICP, as in this is one persona that is buying. There are also GTM leaders that would be obsessed with this for different reasons. Product people would be obsessed for different reasons, and then CROs. So they actually have like four sub
Yeah.
ICPs
Yeah.
within the same company, and they will all have different incentives of bringing the product in. And without this hyper segmentation, it's very hard to sell the product, even though the product is super valuable and makes a lot of sense. If you are not able to put it into the, I guess, pain points of the exact person in the company, you're not going to be able to sell it because it's going to sound too generic for everyone, but for no one at the same time.
Yeah. So if I understand you well, you should like dive deep into segmenting these ICPs and actually try to understand who are all the people when it comes to deciding to purchase your product. Uh,
Exactly.
it's pretty similar what we are trying to understand because it's really important for us to know again the buyer journey, who's coming on the website and what kind of information they want to see before they actually make a decision to book a demo or do a trial, whatever it is.
Exactly. You see, it translates across the
Yeah,
board.
across every. Yeah. And is it like repeating from companies who are at 0 to 1 million, 1 to 10, or they have like different challenges?
I would say 0 to 1 is obviously like the most
The
volatile,
most.
and this is where you have to be like super precise, and you cannot go after everyone, especially if you're not
Yeah.
VC back. You have to just choose at least one, maybe two maximum, and try to go after them. And then once you have traction or product market fit with those two,
Yeah.
with at least one, then you try to expand. And the more you expand, the more you have to think about your product as, I guess, like how it could complement other departments. What makes the most sense. So it's turning from go to market to expansion. And this is usually also where companies can go really wrong. I can give you a specific example: Riverside, the platform that we're on today.
Yeah.
So they started out as just a podcast recording platform, and they were doing it really, really well. Then, of course, they saw that maybe natural expansion is letting people do lives on the platform. I've had horrible experience with this as a user of the platform because they have butchered my lives 2 times. So then I started looking into their whole, company. They're not a client. They're just this is user experience.
Yeah.
Although I would love to have them as a client.
We will see the
So
experience.
for me, that was the wrong move. In the expansion, they decided to go into a completely different product category, and you have to know what you're doing when you're approaching live handling. Like it's a very completely different set of tools, bandwidth, etc. For me, natural expansion for them would have been more things for the podcasters. So they have this magic clips, etc. It's like, give us more. Let us do the whole thing in your platform. That would have been the more natural expansion.
Yeah. That makes sense. And when it comes to like scaling a SaaS teams, you're saying that scaling usually can make a chaos inside the company. So
yes.
what does that mean in practice?
I would say, obviously the biggest fallacy is like hiring more people and hoping for the best type of thing, or thinking that hiring is the only way to scale. It's the wrongest assumption I've ever heard, because what usually happens is that a lot more people are hired, but they don't understand the task clearly enough, and there is not enough people to actually manage them. Or mismatch in the position versus the person's experience. I would say the biggest mistake I've seen is, say, for example, if the company doesn't have a marketing leader, so say they have CPO and all the other C-level titles, and then they finally decide, okay, now it's time to hire somebody in marketing, and I call it cheap out. So instead of hiring somebody super senior and paying more, they would hire somebody mid-level or even closer to junior, and then expect that person to have the same level of like agency and leverage exactly as everyone else. But it's a huge mistake, because even like mid-level person is not going to have the same, I call it, audacity compared to everyone else in the company. And then there is expectation that, why aren't they more proactive? I'm like, well, nobody enabled them. They don't have a leader to lead them. They're mid-level to junior. They need to be led. Like, you cannot hire that person, expect them to go out of their way. That's just not how life works, really. Very rarely there are junior people who would take the initiative and they don't have to be pushed, but it's very rare. It's really like it's A-type personality, and those people are rare.
Yeah, but it's really also important. It will be A-type personality, but they need to have the experience to actually understand the business and not just be the worker from the very beginning. This is usually really like a big example in our space when a company wants to like plug in SEO team for their efforts instead of hiring in-house. As you said, they're trying to like hire a couple of freelancers, but on a cheaper monthly or hourly basis.
Right.
And then they don't have the systems, don't have the tools, don't have someone to actually onboard them properly, and the chaos begins.
Exactly.
But after that, the problem is they continue to compare you with that bad experience and try to actually replicate the same.
Right.
But
this is a really good point, and it goes to all of this, fundamentals. As in, if there is no common I guess, language and understanding in the company about what they're doing, who they're selling it to, etc., they're gonna, like, everybody else is going to fail. Even if you
Yeah.
hire like the perfect agency, if they cannot understand the business, because there is no understanding of the business within the company, then no matter what they do, it's never going to be successful. So you're eventually just setting up everyone to fail, really.
Yeah. And do you have like any experience if like all these top management layers are data A players with seniority, how that actually works in practice? Is it much more potential for success than just trying to juggle with hiring cheap experience, cheap solutions?
Well, I think this is a tricky question because the A players, A type personalities are very different. It's like sometimes people get hired just for their LinkedIn profile. Let's put it this way. Somebody who looks great on paper,
Always.
and they come in and they're just like super ego driven, and they just want everybody to love
Yeah.
them and tell them how smart they are. That's a mistake, and that usually, like, you can see during the interview. And founders who hire people like that and hope for the best, it usually all ends in the same way. The team hates that person. They're just, pushing things down, basically saying, I'm here just to tell you what to do, and I'm not going to do anything myself. And that usually creates a lot of resentment and eventual resignations on the team, because
Yeah.
nobody wants to work with a person who is just gonna, sit here and give everyone commands and not do anything themselves. And another big mistake is if it's say even like mid-level startup, as in it's not completely new, not super early stage, hiring somebody who didn't have the startup experience yet. I've seen fintech companies, fintech startups hire people from banks, and that usually fails because that person has
Corporate.
no notion of how early stage companies work, and they're still going with the pace of a bank while they
Yeah.
need to be moving a lot faster, and that's not their fault. That's all they know.
Yeah.
I've seen this misfire most of the time. It's very rare that somebody from say like corporate background can adapt very quickly to the startup.
My initial question was about the A players was because even if you have like the best people in the team, again, you have to have a clear vision and a right strategy to actually know how to
Exactly.
actually make the order of these people in the company, because everyone will come with different experience, different culture, different values maybe, and that could make a mess after that. And we're
Yes.
hoping and praying that that person will bring the experience and actually speed up the growth of the company.
Exactly. I think you see, exactly, it always comes down to the founder having a clear vision of what they want from the company. And if they're not able to lead, like if they don't
Yeah,
have
yeah,
precise vision, sometimes a marketing executive can step in and help them figure it out. But then this needs to be a clear set expectation from
yeah,
very
yeah,
beginning.
yeah. Let's discuss a bit the go-to-market systems. I know that your work sits at the intersection of like system thinking and the go-to-market architecture. So, what does like that system need to have in order to compound the results instead like burning out the whole team and the whole system?
So, funny enough, it will go back to the same thing. It's like, do you have realistic expectations of where a company can be based on your historical data? Like,
Mm,
say, if your goal is to double your revenue this year, is this based on historical data where you have already made leaps in the revenue? And if you've made leaps in the revenue, what was it based on? Was it based on I don't know, pumping $500,000 into ads and hoping for the best? If that's the case, that's probably not going to happen again, because you have already churned through a lot of people that way.
yeah,
So the realistic expectations, and B, understanding the real capacity on the team. For example, say if they have sequenced a certain number of experiments, so maybe they want to try the social selling, they want to try, if they haven't done it yet, they want to try, SEO or I guess, geo at this point, because everything seems to be going to that direction. Do you have the skills on the team? Because if you only have generalists on your team, very likely they will be able to execute, but it's not going to be on the same speed as people who are actually specialized in that. So again, it's like there always has to be a match between the goal and reality, whether it's the numbers or the skills on the team.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. And do you have like any maybe specific example what exactly can make or break that system inside one company, or what actually happens when they started feeling the compounding results or the opposite?
So I'll give you the content example again, a recent one that came up. We have identified with one company a couple of months ago that they have a big opportunity to create, let's call it a thought leadership movement in their space. Because it was very much blue ocean. Nobody was doing it yet.
Yeah.
And the decision was made, okay, we have and they had 4 people on the marketing team. And one of them was a copywriter. So against my advice, the company had decided that they're just going to use the copywriter to do it. Now, do you want to guess the problem with that?
No.
Nobody actually took care of the strategy. Everybody just decided that because the copywriter can actually do the content, it's the copywriter who should lead the strategy. But a very good copywriter is not always a very good content strategist. So they can churn out a lot of content, but if nobody is leading them in a way that, okay, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to work with the ICPs, this basically nobody's done the research and just dumped the task on their desk to say, yeah, okay, you're going to produce 4 articles and 2 interviews every month, and this is it, and just let us know what happens. So as you can imagine, what happened is that there was almost no organic traction because the person basically didn't know what they were doing. Not in a way that they didn't know how to write content, but they just didn't see the destination. Nobody told them what the destination is supposed to be.
I think this happens a lot when you don't know your structure, how you actually will scale the team and what kind of positions you actually need. Because as you said, sometimes people expect from one person to do everything from strategy to execution, but it's very rare when someone actually can create the strategy and also execute it.
It is super rare, and I mean, it actually could work for a little bit. I mean, I've been the first marketing/growth hire a couple of times by now, and it does work at the very beginning, but after 6 months, that person will usually burn out really badly, which is what happened to me, and I've seen it happen to other people. It's like you have to be very conscious of when you need to get more people on board and what the skills of those people should be. Maybe you just need another generalist because you have like a little, or maybe you need somebody with the special skills like a performance marketing person or the content strategist.
Before we discussed about like scaling and the chaos which could be made when you hire a lot of people on board. So what do you think, when is the time to decide whether it's time to hire or maybe automate or maybe delegate to some assistants some of the work which actually comes to the plate of people?
I usually say like look for the like the fattest cow, actually basically like the channel that already works that you could amplify. So don't if something is not working, don't try to like dump more human power on it, because chances are it's probably still not going to work. But look at the things that are already working and see how you can scale it. Like, can you hire another person house? Can you bring in an agency? Can you, like you said, automate the process? Like basically, if we're talking about piping, right? If this were like piping tubes, if there is a lot of water going into one pipe, just extend the pipe and you'll have more water coming out. And if there is a leaky pipe, you should fix it. And if there is a pipe where there is like no water, just don't touch that pipe or remove it at all. Oh, this makes me think about hiring a lot of people to execute and dumping them under, let's put it, the wrong leader. I've seen it happen quite a few times by now. Marketing people reporting to salespeople and vice versa, because they don't have the budget and don't have the need yet to hire, a
Senior
leader
market.
on that team.
Yeah, yeah.
Always goes wrong because, to bring it back to your point, they don't know what they don't know. Like a sales leader cannot teach something to the marketing person, vice versa. So
Yeah,
this
yeah.
mismatch of leadership skills versus execution skills is also a big bottleneck.
But usually, sales and marketing should have like really clear, really closer connection between.
Yes, but they should have different leaders. Like eventually they should all obviously report to the CEO or maybe CRO or whatever, but each team needs to have its own leader. The setup that I'm talking about specifically, for example, I had both marketing and sales teams under me. Although I have a pretty good understanding of everything in the sales stuff, I'm still not the sales expert. So I was obviously like lacking certain skills, and eventually I burned out because I was responsible for the entire thing. And there was a big resistance in hiring a sales leader. Well, because it was convenient to have just one C-level executive running both teams, like it was a huge money save, but it was a big mistake. Like it could be in transition, but it shouldn't be the operating model.
Yeah, yeah. You said that you burn out. It was because of you didn't know what exact numbers you should like track the sales team, how to communicate with them, or something else.
I believe no, it wasn't because of that. And when it comes to numbers, I'm basically like the CEO level person. I can tell you exactly how we're going to get the numbers, etc. But I do believe that if you are managing a certain function, you need to be able to do pretty much all of the steps of that function. So
Yeah.
when I was managing the sales function, I had no idea about outbound tools because I've never managed salespeople before. So I had to learn together with them, and I had no idea if their performance was good or not good. And we lost a lot of trying to fine tune that and figure it out. Whereas if there was a sales manager who could manage that function directly, we would have had completely different results. So
Yeah.
I knew the numbers here. I knew them here. I had no idea about the bottom numbers, as in where it starts, SDRs, etc. And so that is like a big gap.
Yeah, makes sense completely. Let's take one good example if you have. Can you share some story when actually a founder like scale it pretty easy? What was like that different from the others who are struggling to scale? Maybe you can focus on founder-led growth companies.
Not a client, but actually who was on my podcast, Adam Fard from UX Pilot. They're bootstrapped. They're very much like founder led. I don't think he's done a lot of social selling, but he's definitely been always very close to the users and to the customers. So the entire growth of the company has been led by continuous feedback loop with the customers. So every feature that they shipped was always based on the feedback that they were receiving from the customers. Yeah. And the team is still very lean. And I think they've done an exceptional job in starting with just very small product and then growing it very specifically only based on the feedback. He has very distinct understanding of his ICPs. I remember when I was interviewing him, I was like in his edge case ICP, as in I've only used the product sporadically when I was on my SaaS founder journey because it allowed me to have really good wireframes and whatnot. But then he, out of a lot of founders that I spoke with, was able to articulate his ICPs in a very specific order, and he knew exactly what those people are buying. So that for me was like a, let's call it, pure example, right? And it's very rare.
Yeah. So you're saying that if you stay closer to your biggest customer and just receive the feedback and implement that, it's much actually easier to grow instead of just trying to do some features that maybe no one will use, which usually happens.
But there is a caveat in there because let's put it this way: not all feedback are equal. So sometimes there are founders who just listen to everything and would just like implement everything that they hear. But there is signal and there is noise. I'm going to use the famous example from Amazon. It was like at the very early days of Amazon when they received an order from Bulgaria for books, and they mailed them an envelope with, remember, like the old discs that you could put on the computer. So the
Yeah.
money was in the disk. And Jeff Bezos was basically, he was talking about it in some university lecture. He was saying, you know, a lot of people would have discounted it to say, oh, this is like a one-off edge case. We're not going to do anything about it. But he actually realized it was an expansion opportunity. Like this was the first order from Europe, and he thought to himself, this is a valid case. So let's work towards that. It's this ability to separate signal from noise is what really, really matters for founders, because there's going to be a lot of noise and you got to understand what's valid and what's not.
Yeah. So even when you get a feedback, you have to filter that information. But usually what happens, what I am seeing from my experience with founder-led growth or product-led growth, is people are just trying to make better products without waiting for the real feedback from the market. They're just developing more and more features and not investing in marketing and sales. And then the company steady drops, which is really like often case. And when it comes to like a mindset, do you see some patterns in these people? What actually helps them grow? How they think differently?
Oh, I think there is one very distinct, let's call it a skill, and that's usually also what investors really pay attention to. It's I guess there are two ways to put it: self-awareness and ability to take feedback. So if people are delivering feedback to them, whether it's team, users, etc., they need to be open to it. If they're just in the status quo of like, oh no, I know better and we're just going to do whatever I want to do, that's it. Yeah, game over, end of story. Eventually that company is going to go bankrupt. Like I said, it works both ways, with the team and with the customer. So for me, that's the most important skill that the founder can have, because that means that they can actually evolve and grow. And growing a company does require growing yourself as a person.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the person who started the company is not the same person who's going to run it. I mean, look again at Jeff Bezos. Look at him 10 years ago and look at him now. These are two completely different people.
Yeah,
I'm not even talking about
the
appearance, but everything else.
Yeah. And do you maybe have some like advice? What kind of shift like a founder need to make to actually become from a operator to the real CEO?
I mean, as cliche as it's gonna sound, working with a coach, because a lot of times it's there are certain things that you can very rarely do on your own. It's like, again, it goes down to the phrase, you don't know what you don't know. Like you can have some I guess like hints at things, but you need somebody who can give you the tools, who can give you the language, who can help you like put it all together. And like I said, you can try to do it on your own or with ChatGPT, but it's still not going to give you the same speed as working with the coach. But of course it requires the right coach, because there are a lot of bad ones out there.
Exactly. So we're coming to the end. So before wrapping this out, I know that you have like 90-day revenue scaling sprint, which is becoming like well known. Can you tell us more about that? What are the core steps inside that sprint? What's actually happening with that?
Great question. Thank you for asking it. So we have a certain methodology that we call product scale fit. Of course, we had to come up with a fancy name. And it's a very, very easy 3-step process. So first, what we do is due diligence, almost like an investor would do when they come in, but we do it on a much deeper level, which the two things that I mentioned at the very beginning, the two reality checks. So does your data match up to your goals? And does your current performance match up to the market average? Then obviously it requires us looking at the quantitative data, and also speaking with the team. Then the second part is we take it all, we do the analysis of basically, how you're performing on different, I guess let's call them dimensions, in terms of your understanding of the ICP, positioning, market size, etc. And then what we produce is a scale roadmap, basically the order or the sequence of experiments that we would propose to you to do to basically unlock the revenue that you want. And then this third phase is we obviously help you kick it off, and we act as a project manager. Basically, usually there is already capacity on the team to execute everything. We just help you amplify it in terms of we kick it off. We help you understand how to track it, when to track it, what the success metrics are going to be. Because of course, the revenue target is always the leading indicator. But then how are you going to measure it in the middle of the way? And that usually concludes the 3 months. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. It depends on how fast the team is also reacting and if they had the data room in the first place. And then we usually stay in the advisory capacity afterwards. And I'm right now also thinking about potentially putting together a fund where we can also act as like a growth capital. Basically, if we see a big potential in the company, we could potentially invest. But that for me is more like end of this year.
That's great. That's great. Thanks for sharing this. And for the end, like if you had to leave SaaS founders with one piece of advice, what it should be?
Go in front of the mirror, look yourself in the eye, and ask yourself this question: who are you, and why you're doing what you're doing? If it makes you feel uncomfortable and you're just like laughing about it and you don't want to do it, that's probably a red flag. If it like raises some curiosity, that's good. But like go into that exercise. You will see how it will create this like chain reaction of how you're gonna see things differently afterwards.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for all the advices and mistakes which you shared. What I
Thanks for
will
having
remind
me.
is pick your battles and make the right priority about of them. This is just the biggest takeaway, but there were also a lot. So I will leave your description for the roadmap. If you want to share it with me, I will leave in the description. And for everyone listening, if you're a B2B SaaS company facing with a traffic drop or struggling to show up in AI, or just not converting visibility into high quality leads, you can find the guide below this video. So actually that can help you to solve that. And if you enjoyed this episode, just subscribe to this podcast and wait for the next one. This is Leaders of Growth podcast and is powered by SmartClick, your B2B SaaS growth partner, who can help you to position on AI, search, or recover your traffic drop and turn actual visibility into pipeline. I'm your host, Milan Savov, and until next time, keep leading, keep selling, keep growing. See ya.